आजकल रामायण को या इवन फॉर दैट मैटर महाभारत को कई बार ये कहते हैं कि जो हीरो थे वो आर्यन थे और जो विलन है वो द्रविडियन है, तो इट इज नॉट रियली अबाउट एथिक्स, इट इज नॉट अबाउट वैल्यूज। पर एक रेस जो आर्यन रेस है, उन्होंने द्रविडियन रेस को भगाने के लिए, हराने के लिए ये पूरा षड्यंत्र रचा। सो इट इज एक्चुअली अ रेशियल वॉरफेयर रादर देन द वैल्यूज और अ वॉर ऑफ एथिक्स। धर्म का अधर्म पर विजय, इसकी बजाय ऐसा है। Now let's see what is the evidence we get from the text itself. Ram is called Arya, of course Lakshman is called Arya. Vali is called Arya by his wife Tara. Ravan is called Arya by his wife Mandodari. So clearly even that from that racial aspect there is no Aryan Dravidian. This is I'm saying based only on the text evidences we have. I have a grey box for this whole controversy in Ramayana Unraveled. So let's look at the Eklavya incident. What happens when Dronacharya sees Eklavya? The statement in the text goes like this. Dronacharya says, looking at the existing students of his, he says, I will not admit Eklavya. Now, why is he not admitting all that? There is no specific reason mentioned. It is he's not saying that, oh, because he's not a Kshatriya, I will not admit it. Because in that case, Karna wouldn't have been admitted, right? But Karna was a student of Dronacharya. He was from the Sud community, which is of Brahman Kshatriya, Brahman mother, Kshatriya father, और उनसे जो progeny हुई दोनों Sudas. So Hiranyadhanu, who is the father of Eklavya, he is the Raja of the Nishad community. Yeah, and who are the Nishads? They are also a mixed jati of Brahman Shudra in some places and Kshatriya Shudra in some other places. So Dronacharya's action cannot translate to what the whole Samaj was.
Shambhuk Bodh, what is the truth about the episode in Ramayana?
So the whole Shambhuk Vaz episode, right? It occurs in the Uttarkand of Mahabharata. Now the first prashna itself, or which is raised, is Uttarkand a part of Ramayana or not? Is it a part of Valmiki Ramayana or not? There are two schools of thoughts here, and both of those have very strong opinions. One school says Uttarkand is Prakshipta. It is a later addition. It is not a part of Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki Ramayana ends at Yuddhakand after the Rajyabhishek. They have their very strong reasons to believe so. But there is another school of thought, which is the more traditional school of thought, which says Uttarkand is a part of Ramayana, and they also have many reasons for it. One of it is that lots of our rishis have written commentaries on the Uttarkand as well. Plus both the critical edition as well as the Gita Press edition, they have Uttarkand. Now how should we see this? Yeah, because once we understand how should we see this, we can also explore the Shambhuk episode. अगर हम नहीं मानते हैं उत्तरकांड को, तो it doesn't even matter. We can leave that prasanga. However, I believe that we don't even need to be very defensive about this episode, because there is a way to understand this. First, let us understand what was Shambhuk trying to do. Let us understand the prasang itself. Saying it is added or later added, vagere vagere, that is one thing, right? And the linguists will do their job in that. But what is the prasanga to begin with? So we see that there is this, in Ram's kingdom, everybody lives their full life. There are no deviations in terms of early deaths or diseases and stuff like that. Once there is this Brahmin who comes with a dead son. The son is only 12 or 13 years old. And the Brahmin says there's something going which is not right in the kingdom, which is why such unnatural deaths are happening. Now what is happening? So usme Shri Ram ji goes around to see what's going on. He sees that there is this person jo ulta latka hai, and he's doing ugra tapasya, very intense tapasya. He's hanging from the tree upside down. So he goes and asks him that, what are you doing? Who are you and what are you doing and why are you doing such intense ugra tapasya? So the person says, I am Shambhuk. I am a Shudra called Shambhuk. And then he adds, he says, Devatvam prarthaye Ramam. Ramaha sa sharira devaloka. So he wants to go to Swarga with sa sharira. Yeah. And he wants devatvam. He wants to achieve deityhood, going to the Swarga Sasharira. And then he adds there that he has a jigisha. Jigisha is the desire to conquer. Desire to conquer what? Devaloka. He has to desire to conquer the Devaloka. Hence, he is doing such intense tapasya. Now, when he says that, what Sri Ram does, he takes his sword and he cuts his head. And we are told that the kid who was dead comes back to life, or he must have been subconscious, whatever, he comes back to life. This episode is told to us as only because Shambhu is from a Shudra Jati. Sri Ram did that. Did what he did only because Shambhu comes from a Shudra Jati. And Shudras were not allowed to do tapasya. Now let us look at these claims. Before trying to understand why Sri Ram could have done what he did, let's look at the claim. Were Shudras not allowed to do tapasya? If this is true, then there must have been other Shudras also who would have been stopped from doing tapasya. There is an example which we have of Shravan Kumar. Shravan Kumar was the son of a Shudra mother and a Vaishya father. Yeah, and he is called a tapasvi throughout. When that episode is narrated by Dashrath, he is called a tapasvi. They are living in the one. They are living in the forest. He is doing tapasya. He is called a muni. He was not stopped from doing tapasya. We know Shabri. Yeah, Shabri was living in the ashram of Matanga Rishi, and today also there are the Shabar Jatis and all, which we know are Vanvasi Jatis, are not coming from the top tiers of the society, if I may say so. She was not stopped from doing tapasya. She was doing tapasya in her own way. Then clearly there is no blanket rule around Shudras cannot do tapasya, right? So if something has happened with Shambhu, it could have been it could just not be because he's a Shudra. Otherwise everybody else would have been stopped. Then what happened? The other point to look at in this prasanga is, what was Shambhu doing tapasya for? Such intense tapasya. He wanted to go to Swarga with Sasharir, with the body, and he wanted to conquer the Devaloka. Now you see, this desire itself is very unnatural. It's against the rules of the Prakriti. Are there any other events within Ramayana where somebody wanted to do that and they were allowed to do it? Then we can say that yeah, it was unfair to Shambhu. There is an incident. It includes a Raja called Trishanku. Trishanku is from the Ikshvaku Vansha. So he is an ancestor of Sri Ram. One of the ancestors of Sri Ram is Trishanku. Trishanku wanted to go to Swarga Sasharira. He did not even want to conquer the Devaloka. That Jigisha is not there. He just wants to go to Swarga Sasharira. So he goes to his Rajguru, which is Guru Vasishtha, and he tells him that please do an anushthan for me. अच्छा ना वो तपस्या नहीं कर रहा स्वयं त्रिशंकु, वो अपने गुरु को कह रहे हैं कि मेरे लिए आप अनुष्ठान कीजिए. Vasishtha says this is not possible, don't even desire this, and I will not do any anushthan for you. So he goes to the sons of Rishi Vasishtha and he tells them, please do an anushthan for me. I am the Raja, you do an anushthan for me. They say कि आपको आपके गुरु ने मना कर दिया, why are you coming and telling us? He said no, right? We will also not do any such anushthan for you. But he insists that no, you must do an anushthan for me. So the sons of Rishi Vasishtha, they become angry and they curse him to become a Chandala. Yeah, and he's not even recognizable और ऐसे सब बताया उसमें. तो इस परिस्थिति में उनकी भेंट होती है ऋषि विश्वामित्र से. Now he is a king who the guru said, I cannot do this anushthan for you, sending you Sashari to the Swarga. So it was not it was not a trivial desire that even Shambhu was having, right? Even the Raja was not allowed. Then Vishwamitra meets Trishanku, and at that time Vishwamitra is not yet Vishwamitra. He is still Kaushik Rishi who is trying to achieve siddhis to match Vasishtha because they have a tussle going on. Vishwamitra thinks that he wants to get Brahmatva so that he can fight Vasishtha. That is the whole story behind it. Anyways, so but he has started to get some siddhis because of his tapasya. Not yet Vishwamitra though. So he sees Trishanku and he's like, "Arey Raja, आपकी ऐसे हालत कैसे हो गई?" And Trishanku says, "This was my desire और ऐसे ऐसे इन्होंने मुझे मना कर दिया." Now Vishwamitra, who's Kaushik at that time, he thinks that this is an opportunity for me to prove that I'm better than Vasishtha. उन्होंने मना किया ना, I will do it for you. So he does some anushthan and he tries to send Trishanku to Swarga. This is the story. Indra pushes him down. So basically that yagna is a failure. That doesn't happen. And then the story goes that no, but Vishwamitra insists and he says, okay, if if he is not allowed in the Swargalok, I'll make another lok for him. I'll make an artificial Swargalok for him where Trishanku will stay. Yeah. Now you see, going to Swarga Sasharir was not even allowed to Trishanku, who himself did not do any tapasya. Here a person did Ugra tapasya trying to conquer the heavens. ये कहाँ पर होता है? Usually सुरासुर का जो युद्ध होता है उसमें ये desire होता है. So it's an asuric vritti to want to capture the Swarga and go there Sasharir, which led to an intense tapasya. That intense tapasya had a negative outcome on some citizen of Ayodhya, right? And for that outcome, Shambhuk is obviously responsible. So Sri Ram killed him. Now the other question is, would Sri Ram kill anyone else who would have been doing this tapasya and because of whom somebody would have been killed? If he was so Jativadi, as we are told, then before killing or punishing, he must be seeing everybody's Jati. Let's see what is the Jati of Ravan. Ravan was a son of Vishrashrava, who's the son of Pulatsya, who's one of the Saptarishis, we are told. He's a Brahman son, right? He did not wait to ask Brahman's Jati before killing him. So clearly, the identity lens which we impose when we read our historical text is not valid in this case, because Sri Ram did what he did for Dharma Sansthapan, irrespective of what the Jati was, right? Else Ravan would have never been killed, but he was killed. So it didn't matter what the Jati is. If somebody has done some offense which is leading to some unexpected or negative outcome in the society, the Raja's dharma is to punish him. And that was also the first lesson in Raj Dharma which Sri Ram was given by Vishwamitra, that for the Praja Rakshan, for Chaturvarna Hitarthaya, one must do whatever he must do. The king must do everything and anything.
Ekalabya, no right to education for the lower caste in Mahabharata.
So let's look at the Ekalavya incident. What happens? I'll just narrate what happens in that episode. So Hiranyadhanu, who is the father of Ekalavya, he is the Raja of the Nishad community. Yeah. And who are the Nishads? Nishads are, they are also a mixed jati of Brahman Shudra in some places and Kshatriya Shudra in some other places. So they are all called Nishads, and Nishads come in a variety. Lot of weaponry was made by Nishads. Some of the Nishad communities were very good at making weapons. Satyavati, who is the wife of Shantanu, she comes from the fishing community. Some of the Nishads were also fishermen. Yeah, so there were multiple occupations even within Nishads. Now, when Hiranyadhanu, who is the Raja of that community, he comes to Dronacharya because his son Ekalavya wants to learn archery from Dronacharya, because at that time Dronacharya had become very famous. The Pandavas, Kauravas and many others were learning with him. So when Dronacharya sees Ekalavya, the statement in the text goes like this. He says, Tana Anaviksha. Anaviksha is looking. Looking at who? Tana. Tana means the existing students of his. Dronacharya says, looking at the existing students of his, he says, I will not admit Ekalavya. Okay. Now, why is he not admitting all that? There is no specific reason mentioned. He's not saying that, oh, because he's not a Kshatriya, I will not admit him. Because in that case, Karna wouldn't have been admitted, right? But Karna was a student of Dronacharya. He was from the Sud community, which is of Brahman Kshatriya, Brahman mother, Kshatriya father, और उनसे जो progeny हुआ, those are Sutras. So then why did he refuse? Yeah, it could have been many reasons. One of them also could have been that Hiranyadhanu, basically Ekalavya as well, he was aligned with Magad, which was Jarasandha. Yeah, so some people say it could be because of that association, Dronacharya might have refused. We don't know exactly what would have happened. But the thing is it that Nishads were not taught or they couldn't be warriors? That is not true, right? Because Nishads, we find Nishads fighting on both sides in the Mahabharat war itself. Acha, let's talk about Ekalavya. You know who killed Ekalavya? Eventually, how does Ekalavya die? He is considered to be a great warrior who was fighting on the side of Jarasandha. So after Jarasandha was killed by Bhim, his friend Shalva attacks Dwarka because they're like Krishna के कारण जरासंध की मृत्यु हुई है. So Shalva attacks Dwarka. In that attack, the people, the allies of Jarasandha are also present. One of them is Ekalavya. In that fight which happens in Dwarka, Krishna kills Ekalavya. So clearly he was still a warrior. Even though Dronacharya didn't teach him. Yeah? He was still a warrior. He learned warfare. And not just him, his entire communities, because there are other Nishad warriors as well. Yeah, it is not just him, which means they also learned somewhere, right? Now, there are other instances where Ekalavya is mentioned. In the Rajasuya Yagna that is being done by Yudhishthir, there also Ekalavya comes. So if it was such a Jatiwadi thing, why would they invite somebody like that, right? He comes as the Raja of Nishads at that point. He gets gifts as well for Yudhishthir. So that has also happened, and as I said, Krishna is the one who actually kills him. Which means there was no blanket ban on these for anyone to learn any shastras or astra or shastra if they wanted, because they clearly were warriors. But Dronacharya refused. Yes, Dronacharya refused, that is true. And if I have to give my personal opinion, I think the punishment given to Ekalavya for taking something without the Guru's permission, that itself was quite something, right? Was a little harsh, taking away his thumb. There are people who will say कि archery में thumb की आवश्यकता नहीं है. He can still do archery, and that also was taught to him by Dronacharya. All that well and good. I personally believe it was a harsh punishment. But does that translate to us saying that that Shudras or Nishads were denied education? No. Because they were clearly taught warfare. If warfare is the education that we were talking about, for which Ekalavya had gone to Dronacharya, because others were being taught. With Dronacharya, we can say that we don't agree with Dronacharya's action. But that does not mean everybody was like that, right? And it is not as if Dronacharya has not made mistakes in life. He fought on the side of Duryodhan. That is itself a big, like if we have to talk about right and wrong, that was itself a thing, right? Where we can disagree with Dronacharya. So Dronacharya's action cannot translate to what the whole Samaj was. That particular action we can decide good, bad, what we agree with, not agree with, but it cannot label a entire Samaj or community, because as I said, there are other examples which prove that Ekalavya was considered a warrior. Ekalavya was fighting with Jarasandha, and he was himself given respect by Krishna actually being the one to having killed him.
Is Ramayana an Aryan text?
आजकल रामायण को या इवन फॉर दैट मैटर महाभारत को कई बार ये कहते हैं कि जो हीरो थे वो आर्यन थे और जो विलन है वो द्रविडियन है. तो इट इज नॉट रियली अबाउट एथिक्स, इट इज नॉट अबाउट वैल्यूज. पर एक रेस जो आर्यन रेस है, उन्होंने द्रविडियन रेस को भगाने के लिए, हराने के लिए ये पूरा षड्यंत्र रचा. सो इट इज एक्चुअली अ रेशियल वॉरफेयर रादर देन द वैल्यूज और अ वॉर ऑफ एथिक्स. धर्म का अधर्म पर विजय, इसकी बजाय ऐसा है. Now let's see what is the evidence we get from the text itself. बाकी आर्यन माइग्रेशन थ्योरी वो सब तो जाने देते हैं. What is the evidence we get from the text? In Ramayana, and I have a grey box for this whole controversy in Ramayana Unraveled. There are multiple times the word Arya as well as Anarya is used. In what context? Ram is called Arya, of course Lakshman is called Arya. Vali is called Arya by his wife Tara. Ravan is called Arya by his wife Mandodari. Kaikeyi is called Anarya when she behaves the way she does, when she's asking for Ramasya Aranyagamana, when she's asking for Ramasya Banvas. Dashrath says that you are behaving like an Anarya. Yeah. And so Anarya is used by again Angad. So when he's trying to motivate the Vanaras, his army to fight against Kumbhakaran, and they are trying to run away because Kumbhakaran is very powerful, yeah, and he's basically crushing all of them. तभी अंगद भी कहते हैं कि अरे you don't run away like Anaryas. So basically none of those people considered themselves as Anarya or Dravidian or anything like that. Yeah, they all considered themselves as Aryas only. So even if we take the textual evidence, Ravan does not consider himself an Arya. He considers himself Arya only. The Vanachari Vanaras, they consider themselves Arya. Of course, Ram to be are anyway saying is an Arya, right? So the word Arya itself is not used in the racial sense to begin with. It is used in the sense of Shrestha Vyakti, civilized person, person who has certain value system in life. Yeah, gentleman, जैसे हम बोलते हैं, gentleman and lady. In that sense, Arya is used. Now, one might say कि don't behave like an Arya might mean that Arya is a race and don't behave like that. Possible. Even if we take that interpretation, again we see that across we have three big groups here, right? One is the Ramji's group coming from Ayodhya. We have the Vanaras, we have the Rakshasas in Lanka. They all think they are Aryas only. So clearly, even from that racial aspect, there is no Aryan Dravidian. This is, I'm saying, based only on the text evidences we have. Baki people can keep discussing Aryan and Dravidian theory, but not per Ramayana, not per Mahabharata.
How can we learn management from Lord Ram, who can't even manage his life?
Okay, this is a very interesting question. Why are we saying he cannot manage his own life? Like, let me understand this, right? Because he did not have control over his going to Vanvas, right? He was sent to Vanvas, he went away. He did not have control over Ravan taking away his wife. All that happened. So basically, अगर हम राम जी का जीवन देखें, तो ऐसे कहता है ना कि दैवत का मारा, डेस्टिनी का मारा. That's how his life looks. The thing is, all our lives are like that. But what defines somebody being good or not good, right, is whatever be the paristhiti, how is it that the person himself behaves in that paristhiti? What is his perception, his attitude towards whatever life throws at him? Is he making the best of it? Is he making the worst of it and crying victim? That is what we have to see. So let's take a couple of examples from Sri Ram's life itself. Yeah, and maybe I'll take one because I think that really proves the point really well and shows why Ram is what he is. Yeah. तो जब श्री राम को वनवास में भेजने की बात आती है, then कैकेयी saying रामस्य अरण्यम गमनम भरतस्य अभिषेचनम, राम को वन में भेज दो, भरत का अभिषेक कर दो. एंड दशरथ जी को लगता है कि अरे माय हैंड्स आर टाइट, मैंने तो वचन दे दिया है, तो वचन को तो रखना है. अच्छा, केवल दशरथ जी के कहने पर उनको वनवास उनका अभिषेक हो रहा था ऐसा नहीं है. Dasharatha had actually called a sabha of the citizens, of the officials, ministers, the who's who of Ayodhya, and he asked them, he said, मुझे लग रहा है कि अब मेरा उत्तराधिकारी होना चाहिए, and I think Ram is suited for it, what do you think? तो सब कहते हैं हाँ, we think राम को बना देना चाहिए. And Dasharatha says, no, केवल मैं कह रहा हूँ इसलिए मेरी हाँ में हाँ मत मिलाओ. You tell me, आप मुझे बताइए कि क्यों आपको लगता है श्री राम जो है he is suitable to be my उत्तराधिकारी, कि उनमें सारे ऐसे क्या क्या गुण हैं जो आपको लगता है कि वो राजा बन सकते हैं. और सारे जो अयोध्या वासी हैं वो अलग अलग करके एक एक करके उनको क्यों लगता है श्री राम राजा बन सकते हैं वो बताते जाते हैं. अच्छा, इसके बावजूद when Kaikeyi saying that send Ram to one, Dashrath gives priority to the vachan he is given to Kaikeyi and doesn't say much. Of course he tries to tell Kaikeyi कि ऐसे सब आप मत करो. अच्छा, तो जनरली हमको ये कहा जाता है कि श्री राम अपने पिता का he was so obedient कि अपने पिता की बात रखने के लिए वो तुरंत वन चले गए. क्यों? क्योंकि पिताजी की आज्ञा थी तो वन में चले गए. पिताजी की आज्ञा थी और वन में चले गए, ये बात तो है, परंतु इतना सिंपलिस्टिक भी नहीं है. और इसका जो कारण है वन में जाने का वो स्वयं श्री राम लक्ष्मण को बताते हैं, क्योंकि लक्ष्मण कहते हैं कि अगर हमारे पिताजी भी गलत हो तो एक क्षत्रिय का धर्म है कि वो अपने पिताजी की बात भी ना माने और जो सही है वो करे. क्योंकि आपका जो राज्याभिषेक हुआ था वो केवल दशरथ के कारण नहीं हुआ था, अयोध्या चाहती थी कि आप राजा बनो, ना ही आपने ऐसा कोई कार्य किया है जिसके कारण आप ऐसा दंड ही हुआ ना, ये उनको वनवास में भेजना, कि आपको ऐसा दंड मिले, ऐसा कोई कार्य आपने नहीं किया है, तो इट इज अनफेयर, ये अन्याय है और हमको ये अन्याय नहीं मानना चाहिए, जो सही है वही करना चाहिए। तब श्री राम उन्हें समझाते हैं कि हाँ पिताजी की तो एक बात है, परंतु वो कहते हैं कि लक्ष्मण तुम ये बात समझो, मेरा राज्याभिषेक होने ही वाला था, कुछ घंटों की बात थी, और उसके बजाय मेरे सर पे मुकुट आए, उसके बजाय मुझे वलकर धारण करके वन में जाना पड़ रहा है। इसमें मेरा कोई दोष नहीं है। आई हैव डन नथिंग एट ऑल टू गेट दिस पनिशमेंट। आई हैव नेवर बीन अनफेयर टू कैकेयी माँ। मैंने कभी कौशल्या माँ और कैकेयी माँ में फर्क ही नहीं समझा है। उससे भी बड़ी बात यह है कि कैकेयी माँ ने कभी मुझ में और भरत में फर्क नहीं समझा है। वो मुझे भरत जितना ही प्रेम करती है, फिर भी आज उनके मन में ये बात आई कि मुझे दुख पहुंचे ऐसा कार्य करो। वो जो स्फुरना है, that inspiration to hurt me, that is not justifiable, that is not explainable. So Shri Ram says, when we are faced with such situation in life, which is completely out of our control, which cannot be explained, where nothing we have done deserves that, we should take it as a hand of destiny. अगर मैं इसको एक्सेप्ट करके वन में नहीं जाऊंगा तो दैवत क्या चाहता है, कृतांत, वो कहता है कि कृतांत क्या चाहता है वो मैं समझ ही नहीं पाऊंगा। वो कहते हैं कृतांत एव द्रष्टव्यम, ये जो पूरी परिस्थिति है ना, इसमें मुझे दैवत, इसमें मुझे डेस्टिनी का ही हाथ लगता है। इसीलिए मुझे वन में जाना और भी ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है, क्योंकि मेरे जीवन में आगे क्या आने वाला है, आई विल नो ओनली एंड ओनली इफ आई एक्सेप्ट व्हाट लाइफ इज थ्रोइंग एट मी। एंड ही टेक्स द वनवास। एंड इसमें इतनी बड़ी सीख हम सबके लिए है कि कई बार जीवन में ऐसी सिचुएशन, ऐसी परिस्थिति आती है जब हमने सब कुछ सही किया हो, फिर भी हम जो चाहते हैं वैसा आउटकम ना हो, तब आप क्या करो? Should we be depressed? Or should we say, चलो ठीक है, let's accept what life has in store for us. Let's see what life has in store for us and accept it and keep moving on. That is what Shri Ram did. There couldn't have been a better way of dealing with adversity than what he showed in that case. अच्छा, अब इसका ये प्रश्न है जो एक्चुअली लक्ष्मण भी कहते हैं। वो कहते हैं ऐसे थोड़ी ना हम डेस्टिनी पे छोड़ सकते हैं, वो तो केवल कावर्ड्स करेंगे कि आप डेस्टिनी पे छोड़ दो, कि अभी हम नहीं कुछ कर सकते तो डेस्टिनी पे छोड़ दो। तो ऐसा तो जब सीता जी का हरण हुआ तभी भी श्री राम कह सकते थे, अरे ये तो डेस्टिनी में होगा कुछ, मुझे क्या, डेस्टिनी है तो डेस्टिनी ले गई, अपन को तो कुछ नहीं करना है, जस्ट एक्सेप्ट लाइफ। ही इज नॉट डूइंग दैट, ही इज नॉट डूइंग दैट। तभी वो अपनी पूरी शक्ति लगा देते हैं, 100 योजन का पुल बांधते हैं, सीता जी को ढूंढते हैं और वहां से वापस लेके आते हैं, इतने बड़े रावण की सेना का संहार कर। वहां तो ही इज नॉट यूजिंग दैट अप्रोच। सो टू नो वेयर टू यूज दैट अप्रोच, कि जहां दैवत का काम है एक्सेप्टेड, कहां पर हमको नहीं अभी मेरा पुरुषार्थ करना बाकी है, बिकॉज उन्होंने सीता जी को ढूंढने का पुरुषार्थ किया नहीं है उस समय, तो पुरुषार्थ करना बाकी है। तो कब पुरुषार्थ करो, कब जीवन को एक्सेप्ट करो, ये विवेक बुद्धि होनी भी आवश्यक है। परिस्थिति कुछ भी हो, हम हमारे डिसीजंस कैसे लेते हैं, दैट डिफाइंस एंड डिसाइड्स हाउ वी आर एज पीपल, राइट। यही बात गीता में आती है, जब कृष्ण कहते हैं कि कर्मण्येव अधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, ये तो वो कहते हैं कि कर्म पर आपका अधिकार है, फल पर आपका अधिकार नहीं है, ठीक है। फिर 18वें श्लोक में वो बताते हैं कि ऐसा क्यों है, क्यों फल पर आपका अधिकार नहीं है। वो कहते हैं कोई भी कार्य के सिद्धि या असिद्धि, सक्सेस और फेलियर ऑफ अ टास्क डिपेंड्स ऑन 5 थिंग्स, 5 वस्तुओं पर निर्भर करता है। क्या है वो 5 वस्तुएं? कर्ता, द डूअर, जो कार्य कर रहा है, इज ही केपेबल इनफ, क्या उसमें सामर्थ्य है। कारण, जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स वो यूज कर रहे हैं, करंट जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स यूज हो रहे हैं, जो रिसोर्सेज यूज हो रहे हैं, क्या वो सही है कि नहीं है। जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल लेट्स से एक ब्रिज बनाना है, तो क्या आपने जिसको एम्प्लॉय किया है, जो कर रहे हैं, वो इंजीनियर सही है कि नहीं है, उनको समझ है ब्रिज कैसे बनाना है। अगर उन्हीं को समझ नहीं है तो वो प्रोजेक्ट फेल ही हो रहा है। जो सीमेंट यूज करना है, जो लोखंड यूज करना है, जो मट्टी यूज करनी है, जो मशीन्स यूज करना है, क्या वो सही से इस्तेमाल हो रहा है? उनका उपयोग सही से नहीं होगा, इफ उसमें कुछ गलत चीज हमने ला दी तो भी वो कार्य सही नहीं होगा। तीसरी चीज है पृथक विधा चेष्टा। अलग अलग प्रोसेसेस जो है, प्रोसेसेस को भी उसके फॉर्मेट में करना पड़ेगा, उसके सीक्वेंस में करना पड़ेगा। अगर वहां चूक हो जाती है, स्टिल द प्रोजेक्ट विल फेल। चौथा है व्हाट वी कॉल अधिष्ठान। अधिष्ठान को अलग अलग तरीके से एक्सप्लेन किया जाता है, बट वन वे टू अंडरस्टैंड इज कि जहां पे हम ब्रिज बना रहे हैं उसका जो सराउंडिंग है वो भूमि कैसी है। अगर वो भूमि ही बहुत ही ज्यादा अर्थक्वेक प्रोन हो तो वो ब्रिज टूटने वाला है, या वी विल हैव टू टेक मेजर्स टू एंश्योर कि वो अर्थक्वेक प्रूफ कैसे बनाओ वगैरह वगैरह। सो द सराउंडिंग एनवायरनमेंट विच सपोर्ट्स दैट एक्टिविटी और नॉट, उसका सही होना नहीं होना और वो है कि नहीं वो चेक करना भी आपके हाथ में है। He says, इसके बाद पंचमिति दैवम। जब हम प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट करते हैं और आप सब इंजीनियर्स हो, देयर इज एन एलिमेंट ऑफ रिस्क। हम हर एक प्रोजेक्ट में रिस्क फैक्टर रखते हैं, है ना, टू मैनेज थिंग्स विच आर कंप्लीटली आउट ऑफ आवर कंट्रोल, जिसका हम ये कुछ स्टैटिस्टिक्स या ह्यूरिस्टिक्स से कुछ नहीं कर सकते। दैट यू कॉल इट रिस्क, दैट यू कॉल इट दैवत, राइट? So, but Daivat will come into play only and only after you've done your Purushartha. ये चार चीजें अगर ठीक नहीं होंगी तो भी आप फेल ही होने वाले हो। तो when do you leave to Daivat? जब आपने ये चार तो सही से कर लिए हैं और उसके पश्चात भी आपको जो लगता था वो नहीं हुआ, right? But कई बार there are things meant for us जो हमको शायद पता भी नहीं है कि हमारे लिए हैं, right? उस समय you have to let go and let life happen. This is Sri Ram for us. So while we think he's not managing his life, he is making the best of what life has thrown at him, and that is what we need to learn from him.
No mention of Radha as Premika of Krishna in Mahabharata.
So you're right. There is no mention of Radha in Mahabharata, but we should also remember that Mahabharata में श्री कृष्ण की एंट्री, और जब मैं महाभारत की बात कर रही हूँ तो मैं जो 18 अध्याय महाभारत के हैं उसकी बात कर रही हूँ। महाभारत में हरिवंश पुराण भी आता है, जो बहुत लोग मानते हैं कि हरिवंश पुराण जो है वो भी महाभारत का भाग है। उसमें कृष्ण यादव वंश, हरिवंश है ना, तो यादव वंश की कहानी है, उनके बचपन की भी कहानी है। परंतु मेन महाभारत जो है उसमें कृष्ण की एंट्री ही होती है द्रौपदी के स्वयंवर पर, when he is already in द्वारका, उसके बाद उनकी एंट्री होती है, ठीक है। तो उसमें तो उनके रासलीला और सबका कोई भी मेंशन नहीं है, वो फोकस ही नहीं रहा है। हरिवंश पुराण में थोड़ा सा है, पर मेनली जो रासलीला वगैरह की जो कथा आती है वो भागवत से आती है। राधा जी का मेंशन भागवत में भी नहीं है। वहां पर एक गोपी जो स्पेशल गोपी है सब गोपियों के बीच, उनका मेंशन है, पर उसमें भी राधा ये नाम नहीं दिया हुआ। जब श्री कृष्ण द्वारका छोड़ते हैं तो उनकी आयु केवल द्वारका नहीं, सॉरी, जब वो वृंदावन छोड़ते हैं तब उनकी आयु केवल 11 वर्ष की है। तो ये भी हमें ध्यान रखना बनता है जब हम राधा कृष्ण की कहानी सुनते हैं। पर अच्छा, पर इसका अर्थ क्या? आज तो हम हर मंदिर में देखें तो राधा कृष्ण है ना, हर जगह है। कितने लोग जो है वो राधा रानी को ही मानते हैं, राधा रानी से उनको शक्ति भी मिलती है, लोगों का जो मेडिटेशन है उन्होंने राधा रानी पर किया है। सो जस्ट बिकॉज भागवत में नहीं है तो क्या हमें उसको डिस्कार्ड कर देना चाहिए? नहीं, ये मैं नहीं कह रही, ठीक है। अगर उपासना के लिए हमको राधा कृष्ण चाहिए, राधा रानी चाहिए, उनसे शक्ति मिलती है, संप्रदाय है जो केवल उनके लिए है, वो सब ठीक है क्योंकि वो उपासना के लिए है। परंतु अगर हम ऐतिहासिक टेक्स्ट में देखें तो राधा जी का डायरेक्ट वर्णन कहीं पर भी नहीं है, डायरेक्ट उल्लेख भी नहीं है। मैंने ऐसे सुना है कि कदाचित कोई पुराण में, पद्म पुराण या कुछ, आई एम नॉट एग्जैक्टली श्योर, वहां उनका मेंशन आता है। परंतु मेजर मेंशन ऑफ राधा कृष्ण कम्स फ्रॉम गीत गोविंद, जो जयदेव की कविता है गीत गोविंद, उसमें राधा कृष्ण का डिटेल में डिस्क्रिप्शन और विवरण है। तो दिस इज जस्ट द ट्रिविया अराउंड।